Hey, this is Matthew and welcome back to Nerd News Today, and it's time for a very special action figure review because this one has been months in the waiting. Today we are looking at our very first AEW action figure from Jazzwares and Wicked Cool Toys. We first saw the AEW toys back at Toy Fair 2020 in February, and we were amazed by how good they looked, but those were the hand-painted protos. We hadn't quite seen production yet. And today we've got the very first production figure from the AEW line, and that is Le Champion and his ringside exclusive, little bit of the bubbly action figure pack. This thing is awesome. When it was first announced, again, another huge surprise, and the surprises just kind of kept rolling out because we didn't know it was going to come packaged like a bottle of champagne the way it is. This is a really, really cool packaging to start off with. So before we take a look at our Jericho out of the box, let's just take a quick look at this packaging. Now, obviously, the rest of the AEW figures are not going to be in this style of packaging because they're not all going to look like bottles of booze. But for this ringside exclusive here, it is, as I mentioned, in the shape of a champagne bottle. So that's really cool. That's a really awesome little piece here. It is connected. It's not come out as far as I can tell, but we might be wrong about that. We'll see in a moment. It's also a very thin box. In fact, you can actually see how kind of surprisingly thin this is. So I guess the figure is being held in here and that's doing most of the work maybe. I'm actually pretty excited to see how this is all going to work. What's also kind of curious to note is that there's a little number on this side. So it says this is part of Series 1, but it says this is number 9. So I don't really know how that numbering system is going to work. I guess we'll see how the other figures are and how they're numbered. I thought there's only 6 figures per line, unless they're counting the variants, but even then, I don't know how this is all adding up. So that's just a curious thing to be aware of as this line starts to come out. We'll see what those numbers actually do mean. Another interesting thing to note about this figure's packaging is that on the very front, it says it's for ages 8+. That's kind of funny when you think about it because they're selling a bottle of booze here, folks. The packaging is a literal bottle of alcohol. The packaging is shaped literally like a bottle of alcohol, so it's just kind of funny to me that they'd be promoting this to minors. At the end of the day, it is an adult collectible, but it's still rated for 8 and up, so more a funny observation than a serious concern. The back of the packaging has a photo of Le Champion, as well as a gold foil autograph of Chris Jericho. I'm pretty sure that's not his actual hand-signed autograph, so if you're thinking you're gonna get a special hand-signed one, you're not. Sorry to disappoint you. But if you meet Le Champion, maybe he'll do it for you, or possibly spit in your face, one of the two. You can tell me which happens. We also have a ringside exclusive gold foil engraving or etching. It's not quite a sticker, it's just kind of part of the packaging, but it's gold and I really like that. And that's the thing that's really nice about this whole thing is there's a lot of gold all over the place. You've got the gold wrapper, you've even got gold bubbles because it's a little bit of the bubbly. But I'm not a mint on card collector, and if you're watching this review, chances are neither are you. So let's go ahead and open Le Champion up and take a look at him out of the package. All right, so let's go ahead and get our little bit of the bubbly out. And so I'm trying to figure out the way to do this. I guess we just go ahead and cut on into it. So off the bat, this style of packaging does remind me a lot of what Jakks used to do, and that makes sense because this is Jerry Padower's line. He is the mastermind behind so many of our favorite Jakks action figures. So yeah, it makes sense to go back to this kind of style of packaging. Not that it's that different from what Mattel does these days. All right, finally got all the tape off of it. All right, that's our review. We're done. No, all right, here we go. Let's pop everything out. So it unveils like this into our full-on bottle of bubbly. Looks like Jericho's already fallen out of there. We'll just go ahead and pull him out. There you guys go. And I know it's a little hard to see. I'm gonna take a better photo of him so you can see the entire verticality of what this thing looks like out of the package. So what was behind him was in fact his AEW table, but we'll take a look at that in another minute or two. I'm gonna go ahead and pop out Jericho first, and looks like there's no tape or anything actually holding him in, so that makes my life a little bit easier. But yeah, here's how it all looks. It's very, very tall, this box here. So first things first, let us talk about our Chris Jericho action figure. And I have to give a big, big thumbs up right away to Jazzwares and Wicked Cool Toys because you can kind of see there's like some plastic underneath his shirt. That is brilliant. That is them making sure this fabric doesn't run on the plastic. So if you're a mint on card collector and maybe one day you change your mind a few years later on, or maybe you're just a collector who wants to keep him loose, whatever, you've got a plastic covering on him, so this will not stain his body. That's really great. I'm gonna see how far that actually goes. I'm just gonna take off the shirt just a tiny bit to see what's going on there. And it does look like, yeah, it's a Velcro snap here. All right, so it looks like this fabric is mostly just on the sleeves. Well, maybe my kudos to them was a little early, but we'll find that out in a second. So the question now is, does this look like Chris Jericho? Well, this is a tough one here. You know, the head sculpt looks okay. The paint job looks like ass. This is not a good paint job. Let's do this piece by piece. The eyes actually look pretty good. The eyebrows look decent, even though they look really thin and long, and I feel like that's not entirely accurate. It looks more like a Vulcan. The problem is mostly in the mouth and beard area. The beard is a little kind of spotty. The coloring looks like it's fine. It's just the way it's painted looks a little unevenish. But the main thing that's extra horrible about this toy is really the mouth, the lips, and the teeth. The lips are just like weird pink color that just doesn't seem right. The teeth look weird. I'm having a hard time even putting words to this. It just doesn't look right. Something just looks unhuman about it. He looks more Joker-esque. Yeah, it looks more like Leonardo DiCaprio going on a meth bender or something. It's not there. It's not looking too good. I mean, I'll give compliments to the hair. They got the hair right. That looks good. It's actually a really nice hair sculpt, and I'm a sucker for long hair, so it gets that correct. But yeah, I mean, even the profile, not quite there. It's like the nose looks almost like it got sawed off or something. It's tough. Like some angles, it definitely looks better than others, but yeah, the paint really doesn't do it any favors. Maybe it's just the way the head is. Maybe it's the way they're sculpting his head compared to how he is in real life, but his chin just looks really long. It looks very elongated, not in a good way. Nothing that really does him any favors. Again, nothing that really helps him out. And that paint job just gets worse and worse the more that I look at it. But it looks like the lip color is just in the wrong spots maybe, because it looks like it's bleeding onto his teeth. It's pretty bad. It's a not great paint job. And I gotta tell you guys, you know, in one of the wrestling figure groups I'm in, someone got the toy before I did and they posted a picture of it, and I couldn't believe how bad that paint job was. And here's a picture of it. And yeah, it's basically Sloth from the Goonies. It's that bad. It's mispainted so poorly that I can't believe that their quality control team let it out the doors. So this version here we got of Jericho, you know what, if that's their worst version is Jericho as Sloth, then this is probably one of their better versions, and that's not a great start. So Jericho comes with a fabric shirt, as we mentioned, which has a little bit of the Bubbly printed on it. I'm gonna take that shirt off now though, just to see if we can, which I'm pretty sure we can. It's just Velcro here, and yeah, all right, so unfortunately it looks like, well, all right, it's actually not the worst. So yeah, basically his shoulders were covered up, but not the rest of him. So that's kind of weird. I mean, I'm assuming they're doing that again to protect the figure from the fabric bleed, but why would you only do the shoulders, not the rest of the body? That part I don't understand. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slide off these floaties for Jericho. So let's talk about his body shape. So this is something that was kind of the talk of a lot of Toy Fair also, was, oh, people said Jericho was too buff or whatever. Well, it looks like they have solved that problem. This body actually looks mostly like Jericho. He does have a six-pack there, which is not as accurate. I mean, he still kind of has pretty strong stomach muscles, but maybe not quite as defined as what we have in this figure here. It's close enough for me, at least. I'm not expecting everything to be perfect, and especially not to be like unique to just his body, because these are action figures after all. These are mass-produced figures, so we can't expect, you know, like a special body just for Jericho. But I think this is close enough that it gets the job done. It looks decent. I mean, even from behind, you know, it looks pretty good too. But the front is what matters the most. And in my opinion, it's Jericho. It's still, the body definitely reads as Jericho, whereas the face may not quite as much. The body definitely does. What is really nice is the tattoo work on his arms. That is actually really sharp looking though. There's some good design work on that. But interestingly enough, as nicely painted or applied, because they're probably decals that were applied on, as nice as they do look, we'll compare it later to some other figures, but the tattoos are a little bit more pale compared to what Mattel's doing, but we'll take a better look at that in a moment. As for the outfit, this is the outfit that the Champion wore when he became the first ever AEW champion, and it looks pretty accurate to me. It looks pretty good. What I do like is that he has his own custom codpiece, which is kind of cool. I mean, the belt is actually sculpted, it's not painted. Sometimes even Elite figures just have painted on belts, whereas Jericho does not. The detail in the crotch though, that is not sculpted, that's just painted on there. But it looks fine. His boots, however, they look kind of enormous for his feet. I don't know what it is, but they look like extra big on him. I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's like the more you look at the toy, it's like it gets bigger on the bottom. As you go up, things get tinier. It's kind of interesting. Something else you might be noticing is the two-tone paint. That's not uncommon to pretty much any action figures. Mattel does that. You can see here, like the stomach is one color, the chest is another one. But we've seen it with some of the toy lines. Not really a big detractor. I mean, Jakks back in the day it was common to see that too, if not worse ways than that. But that's just something to be aware of if you're picky about those types of things. And now for the sake of comparison, I actually have a few different Chris Jericho figures from other companies. Here we have a Ruthless Aggression style Chris Jericho. This is him from his WCW look. So yeah, it's not quite, you know, as up to date as a newer version of him, but it's still a Jericho head sculpt. And this one, again, not quite super new. It's a few years old by now, but it gets the job done. We have a Mattel Elite Chris Jericho. This is him with his Bon Jovi look. So let's just compare and contrast the heads just to get an idea of, you know, who did it best. So, you know, the Ruthless Aggression style Jericho, a lot more cartoony. Obviously it is based on a younger appearance, but still reads like Jericho. The Mattel version, again, this is probably not the best version to actually look at, but even then it reads to me like Jericho. I mean, I'll say this, with them all standing side by side, I can tell that they're all Chris Jericho. It's just how Chris Jericho-y are they, if that's a word. I don't know, it is now. Point being is that there have been plenty of Chris Jericho head sculpts out there from different companies. Most of them are typically always good looking for the most part. Again, even Bon Jovi Jericho, which is, it's not one of my favorites, but it still looks decent enough. And that was when Jericho especially had also slimmed down quite a bit as opposed to how he is today. He's a little bit more bulkier. They all have a resemblance to Jericho. I think that's something you can't argue about any of them with. Just how good they actually look is the question. And you know what? It's really tough. I want to like this Jericho a lot more. And as I look at it, it's like, it looks decent. It's just, man, the paint just, it takes away all of the likeness. It really kind of does. It ruins it. So I hate to say it, but I'm hoping that future Jericho releases will resolve this paint issue or whatever it is that's causing the problems. Because for now, this Joker smile of Jericho is not doing it. So let's talk accessories. And the first accessory I want to talk about is his table. Our Jericho here comes with a table. And again, I'm going to compare this to a recent WWE Mattel table, just so we have some point of comparison here. So you can see the main difference is actually size. In fact, I can actually put this table over here, and the AEW table, it's got a lot of space on it. So that's cool that it's a bigger table. The crease is also a little bit more centralized on the AEW table here, this black one, as opposed to this, where the crack on it goes like from the middle to the upper area here, which I've always found makes it harder to break. I get the feeling this table is going to break a lot easier, but I'm going to test that out in a little bit later on. Now let me show you guys some of the other things he comes with, and that is his snack tray, which has got space in the middle here for his bowl of olives. It's a really colorful looking setup. I actually am very, very impressed by that. You know, Jakks used to do a lot of like food items with some characters. They had like pizzas, they had burgers, they had soda cans, cups. They've done all sorts of things like that before, and I always really enjoy those. And this is another really outstanding piece for that. He also comes with not one, but 2 bottles of Bubbly, which I'm going to see if they actually fit in his hand. You'll notice my green screen right now is not very happy about this, but oh well. Both bottles do in fact fit in his hand, and those look pretty good. All right, so unfortunately, of course, I happen to have them both pointing the greenest part to the camera, which makes it look like they're invisible. Let's fix that. There we go. So what's also really kind of fun about this pack here is that the champagne bottles actually do say Le Bubbly on them. So I enjoy that. That's really great. Let's go ahead and put these on the table as well. But really, I don't need to put them on the table because we have an ice bucket that we can also use. So let's see. Ice bucket goes here. A bit of the bubbly goes inside the 2 holes that are in there. That's all good to go. Can't have a party without some solo cups. However, these are not the red solo cups that the Street Profits love so much. These are yellow solo cups. But now we get to the real piece de resistance about this figure. That is the AEW Championship belt. So take a look at how good this belt looks. This I have to give them immense compliments for. This belt is super shiny, super detailed. This is great. I'm gonna go ahead and actually put this on his waist, but let's see if it can close. And this is basically the same enclosure now that Mattel uses, the little 4 rubber holes that go into the back of the belt, which can sometimes be pains in the butt, depends on how firm the plastic is for it. But I've got this one here, and it looks like it fits, so that's good to go. And I'm gonna give him his last accessory, which is a microphone. So that's how our Jericho looks all dressed up. So I'm gonna move the snacks behind Jericho for a second, because I wanna talk about the championship belt. And once again, I do wanna compare it to some other belts here. So first thing first here, I'm gonna bring out, once again, our Ruthless Aggression style Chris Jericho. He's got with him an Intercontinental Championship that Jakks made. This was probably not the best thing to use for this particular review here, because it's not one of their best looking belts, but again, just so you can kind of see, similar kind of gold color actually. The details are, of course, 100 times better on the more modern figure. But what I want to show you guys here is where the evolution has come with these belts, because back in the day, to get these belts on, you had this strap system here, which was crude, but effective at the time. So we've come a long way with that. But if we go ahead and swap this one out and bring in Bon Jovi Jericho, I'll show you guys 2 of the Mattel belts. And the reason I'm showing you guys 2 is because this here is the basic championship belt. You'll get this style of belt with the basic figures, and it's not really as shiny. And then this one over here is what you get with the elite figures. So again, same belt, just 2 different presentations for it. So how does the gold compare? Well, the gold is a lot more yellow than the WWE belt. It's a lot more neon almost. It's a good looking sculpt as well for this belt. You can't ever say that Mattel does bad jobs with their belts, because they don't. They all look quite good. But I think the gold and the silver and all the things that are going on in this Wicked Cool Toys belt looks actually more realistic. I actually think their belts kind of edge things out a little bit right now, at least what we're seeing today. It's a fairly big belt, good paint on it, so that's pretty great. As for the straps though, Mattel does the straps better. You can see here it's got kind of like a more leather texture, whereas this belt's a little hard to show off because it's got so much going on. But yeah, it's just smooth. It's entirely smooth here, so you're not going to get any leather texture that you do with the Mattel belts. So as far as belts go, yeah, the AEW belts look great, really nice shine, excellent color, great detail. The one thing that they don't have is leather detail on the strap. So let's talk articulation now. Now we're gonna do it point for point with this Mattel Elite Jericho here, because the Elite articulation hasn't really changed much, so that's fine. It'll make things easier. They both have ball jointed heads. You can see there, they both move just fine. That's nice. Both have ball jointed shoulders. You can hear Jericho's are popping, whereas, Jericho, you can hear Jericho. Which Jericho? You can hear the AEW one has joints that are actually making pop noises. Interesting. So it's like there's a different kind of joint in there. I don't really know much about what that joint is. Whereas opposed to this, which is just a straight ball joint, makes no noise, just goes like that. So that's an interesting thing to note, that there's some kind of like mechanism inside the joints that make it, that sound right there. They both have the bicep swivel. Both of them do that, you can see right there. Both biceps swivel. Now the difference with the AEW figures is that these have double jointed elbows, so that you can get some really nice posability here. You can get that, if he's holding the microphone, for example, here, super close to his face, just like that. Whereas the typical Elites do not have the double jointed elbow. That's about as much as he can do with that. They both do have the wrists that move and bend. You can see that there. They both have a upper body section that moves. The Elites have this style of buck, whereas the AEW figure has this new style that's been kind of floating around. We're seeing more figures use this nowadays. It kind of hides the point of articulation a little bit more. I don't know how much it actually affects movability and posability. It looks like it actually doesn't affect it too much, and it's partly because this is actually a softer material that's his abdomen here, so it can kind of go into itself. I will say, yeah, this definitely has one point that we're seeing right now that's not on this Elite. Yes, his waist can turn, so can this Jericho's. It's a little hindered, but it does move. It's probably because it's fresh out of the box, but there's actually like a spine almost. So he's doing a lot more rocking back and forth. You can see how much more he's getting down into this pose. That's cool. It's like a surprise hidden joint in there. In terms of legs, I think there's also not really anything different. They both have ball joints, T-hinge in their legs. Boots move in both of them. The feet on Jericho's move as well. Boots move here. He's got the thigh joint, and yeah, ankles move as well. Now, because Jericho has these giant knee pads, I can't really tell, but it appears that he has double jointed knee pads. See if I can kind of sneak it out there. You can see this. Looks like he's got a double jointed knee. The Mattel Elites also have the double jointed knee. That's something we see with the Ultimate Editions as well. So in terms of articulation, yeah, they're not too far off from each other, but the AEW figure edges it out just a little bit because of this bending waist and because of the double jointed elbows. So I'm gonna take this Jericho away for a second, and I'm gonna bring in another figure that's gonna probably surprise you guys that I'm gonna use in the comparison, but that's our Fiend figure. We reviewed the Fiend quite some time ago. It's a really, really great action figure. We gave it a very, very high review. And the reason I wanted to show off the Fiend right now is because of the tattoos. We mentioned the tattoos here in Jericho, that I felt they're a little bit more faded looking, and so that's why I wanted to bring the Fiend here so you can see what I'm talking about. They both have very busy, crazy tattoo designs, but you can see now the Fiends are much darker, whereas Jericho's are a little more faded looking. Now, which one is better? That is more, I'd say, for the customer to decide. That's more for you guys to decide what you want more. Either one doesn't really bother me, to be completely honest. If anything, this is probably more realistic. This is more like he just oiled himself up. He's getting ready for a photo shoot. Neither's bad, but I just want you guys to see that there is a difference between the approach for the tattoos. So here's the table. Let's actually test out how it breaks. And I'm gonna use a little bit of a bigger figure here. I'm gonna use our WCW Jericho just to see, number one, can it hold the weight up? Yes, it's holding the weight up just fine. I'm gonna bring out our Mattel table as well as another point. Yes, they can both hold the weight just fine. Let's see now how it breaks. So I always felt like these Mattel tables just take a lot of effort to break. And I think part of that is because the crack is just not even. It kind of goes off to the side a little bit. So there we go, that breaks. Broke pretty nicely because I put a lot of force in it. Let's see how it goes with this table now. Nice. I think that was actually a little bit easier to break this AEW table. And putting it back together, that was also pretty darn easy. For comparison, let's put back together Mattel. Both pretty easy, all right. So both are good in terms of that, both move really nicely. I do think that the breaking is a lot cleaner though, and a lot easier on the AEW table. So that's our look at the very first AEW action figure from Wicked Cool Toys and Jazzwares of the Champion, Chris Jericho. And this is once again the Ringside exclusive Bubbly, a little bit of the Bubbly set. So what are my final thoughts on this figure? Well, This is a tough one for me, folks, because I wanted to like this one a whole lot more. I was blown away at Toy Fair when I saw these, but again, I knew those were hand-painted protos. What would happen once they actually came out? And here we have now the production version of this toy, and it's pretty good. You know, it's actually good. The accessories are great. One thing I can never say that Jakks did wrong when Jeremy was there was accessories. They were always really good looking. The championship belt is amazing. That's a great championship belt. I'm really excited about the size of it and how good it looks. The body has got really great articulation. I like how it looks, I like how it holds up. It's a big improvement over what we saw with Jakks. It's fairly on par with the Mattel Elites as well, and it sizes up pretty much just perfectly in scale. I mean, they're gonna fit right in with your Mattel figures, which is also very, very nice. But what I get a few red flags from is the head sculpt. And it's not so much the sculpt itself, because I think the head sculpt looks pretty good. I think if we strip this of paint, it would look pretty darn great. But the paint job on this Jericho, that does not look too good. His eyebrows are too long. His lips and his teeth are Joker looking. The facial hair paint job is just kind of spotty also. You know, it's not great paint job. I think that's really what's hurting it more than anything else. So I'm hoping that the rest of the first wave that comes out, the official first wave and probably the second wave as well, will have fixed that problem with Jericho, because we are getting a second figure of Jericho. We're gonna get him with his entrance gear, with his big jacket with the spikes on it and his hat. And we know that that does have a different head sculpt. It's not the smiling face here. It's actually a different head sculpt entirely. So I'm hoping that that'll have, again, a slightly better sculpt that addresses some of the issues I had here with like the pudgy nose and the chin not being quite right looking. But more so, I will hope that it's gonna take care of the paint problem. But this is still wave one of AEW. They're still learning as they go. It might be a wave or two before we see some improvements in the face. But really the reason I make such a big stink about it is because since I saw that photo of that warped, bizarre looking Jericho, I do have some concern about quality with these figures now, and I don't want to have that worry. So, you know, I feel like Jeremy Padawer and the team over at Jazzwares and Wicked Cool Toys that's working on these figures, here's what the fans are saying, sees all these photos that get out there from actual customers, and will fix some of these issues moving ahead. And to reiterate, I think that the problem is really not the head sculpt, and you can fight me about this in the comments, but I really think it's just the paint job here. And we know that paint's gonna be an issue because I know there's already been some talk about the two different Kenny Omega figures that are coming out, where one has darker hair, the other one has more accurately colored hair. So clearly there's gonna be some things going on, but I really just think it's growing pains, or at least I'm gonna hope it's just gonna be growing pains. And my expectations for these figures are still fairly high. I just think it's gonna take some time to get them a little bit better. And I do have faith that they will get better. But overall, I think it's a really, really strong figure and a really great start to the AEW series. Just one kind of important thing that needs to get addressed and resolved in the coming wave of figures that are gonna be released. So basically, my thought on it is worth picking up, but be patient and maybe be a little bit picky too. You know, like this Jericho is really great because it is an exclusive. It might not be the best one to have as a loose collector. I think it is actually pretty great in the packaging, which speaking of, I still have here, and you can actually hold on to that little bit of bubbly and leave it there as like something to display with the figure. So again, hats off to that great packaging job here. At the end of the day, if I had to give this Jericho rating, this would probably be a 7 out of 10. And it would definitely be much, much higher if that head sculpt had a better paint job on it. So that's our AEW, a little bit of the bubbly, Chris Jericho. And yeah, I actually still cannot wait for the rest of these AEW figures to come out. I'm very excited to see what else they're gonna do. I'm excited to see also how and if they will improve. And keep in mind, I think it's gonna be another few months. We're gonna get the UFC figures as well from this company. And they're gonna be pretty much similar to what we're looking at here. So yeah, there's gonna have to be improvements made as things go along. I'm gonna stick with the line. I'm looking forward to see what they do next. I can't wait to get series 1 and 2, seeing what happens in 3 and 4 and after that. And fingers crossed, no one else has QC problems like we've seen with this figure so far, and that also, we just get a better paint job. So I'm Matthew from Nerd News Today. That's our look at the very first AEW action figure in our hands, and it's of Le Champion, Chris Jericho. I hope you guys will subscribe to the channel to check out all of the pro wrestling content we do here on Nerd News Today, as well as all the other action figure and statue reviews. Make sure to give this video a like, even if you didn't like this Jericho, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So we'll see you guys next time, and until then, make sure to help yourself to a nice glass of a little bit of the bubbly.